Hey, this is Mike with The Quality Sportsman. Today I'm going to tell you how you can prepare for your first PRS match and what kind of gear you'll need. Let's go. Before we get into it, I'd ask that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That will help me grow the channel and bring you better quality content each week. Please go ahead and give a like as well if you enjoy this video. Thanks. Okay, so the premise behind this video is that I think there's a lot of good content out there about PRS shooting, and I think that a lot of it is driven by some of the top PRS shooters. They have great podcasts, YouTube videos, things like that. But I feel like they're still missing the basics for beginners and what to expect and how to prepare for their first match. So while I've been shooting competitions for a long time, this was my first official PRS match, and I want to share with you some tips on how to prepare and what to expect so that you can shorten the learning curve for going to your first PRS match. For this video, it's assumed that you know a little bit about PRS, the Precision Rifle Series. This is a long-range technical style shooting circuit, and I'm not going to explain what that is. I'm not going to go deep on the very, very basics. I'm going to be focused more on preparing for your first match, what to expect, what you need. So today I'll be breaking down this video into a few different topics: the gun, the gear, the fundamentals, and how to practice and prepare. The first thing you'll need, obviously, is a gun. This gun needs to be capable of shooting 1 minute of angle group size, which means 1 inch at 100 yards. I think that is plenty good enough. Don't stress if you're just shooting factory ammo. A lot of folks reload. You can see my reloading kit behind me here. A lot of folks reload for the PRS. Obviously, the tighter your groups, the more accurate your gun, the better, but 1 MOA is absolutely fine for this style of shooting. Your gun is going to need a good scope on it. I really recommend, and I think it's essential, that you have a scope where you can dial elevation. I think most people are shooting scopes that measure in mils and not MOA. This scope should be powerful and clear enough that you can spot your hits and misses out to 1,000+ yards. In this competition, I had a chance to shoot a new long distance record for myself, which was 1,069 yards, and I was only on about 18 power on this scope. While it goes all the way up to 29 power, it's still better to see your surroundings and be zoomed out enough for target acquisition. So I think anything up to 15 power would be good enough. But you know, the more the better, because you want to be able to zoom in if you need to spot those misses so you can get your rounds on target. You're also going to need a bipod. A lot of them more stable in longer range shooting positions. They weren't prone. There was actually no prone shooting, but they were kind of like a modified prone where you would be leaning on the table and have the gun rested. So you'll need a bipod as well, and I really recommend that you have bipod that you can quickly take off. There were some stages where we were shooting from the bipod and then you had to shoot from a barricade where you wanted to take that off. So you need to be able to rip that off mid-stage, or at least flip it up like this one here. It's kind of ridiculous that you can spend up to $1,000 on a bipod today. This is the ground pod from MDT. I really like it. It's simple but very effective. It's like $200. People running Harris bipods out there. In my opinion, don't spend too much on a bipod. It needs to just have the basic features. You know, to be able to go raise it up and down, kick the legs up, things like that. Your gun is also going to need a detachable magazine. I don't have the mag in right here, but I use 10-round MDT detachable magazines for this 6mm Creedmoor. And I really can't see a way that you would be successful with an internal fed magazine. That would be very difficult, especially since those are limited in capacity. Another thing that you're really going to want on your gun is a level. On this side, on my side of the gun, I have an electronic level. This is an MDT send it level. It gives you basically a green light when your gun is level. And that's really nice, but that is a luxury. A bubble level is just fine. when you're shooting off of tons of different barricades in different positions, tires, rocks, things like that, it's kind of hard to tell if you're level or not. And you really need to make sure your gun is level. If it's canted left or right, especially for those longer range shots, you're really going to be missing left or right of your target. So you have to make sure that your gun is level when you're shooting. You're also going to want to balance your gun. Since we're doing a lot of positional shooting here, it's really nice if you can balance your gun. And you see I have some external weights here that help me do that. It's really nice if you can balance your gun where it's going to be resting on the bag, on the barricades, so that you're not having to apply a ton of external force to the gun to keep it stable. That is going to make you more shaky on target. And some of these targets are pretty small, so it's nice to be as stable as can be on these barricades so you can focus on a good trigger squeeze and target engagement. Now, lastly about the gun caliber, while 6mm variants seem to be the most popular today, there's tons of different calibers out there. People shooting 6.5 Creedmoor, 308, anything. You basically just need to make sure that you can shoot up to and a little bit past 1,000 yards. There's no specific published standard for distances, but I do believe it's common to stretch out to that 1,000-yard mark and even beyond. Like I said previously, the match that I shot, the furthest target was 1,069 yards. Okay, and the nice to have is that the gun fits you really well. If you can have a modular, stock or cheek comb that can move up and down so that when you get on that gun, you're just looking right down that scope, that's really nice. So make sure the gun is balanced, make sure it fits you well, and if it does and you have a caliber that can shoot that far, I think you'll do fine in the PRS circuit. Okay, so now that we've talked about the gun, let's talk about some of the other gear you'll need. You've probably seen me touching the shooting bag. I love it. It is an Armageddon gear game changer. This is the absolute #1 most common bag that you'll see out there on the PRS at the PRS matches. And it really is a game changer. For me, once I started using a shooting bag, my shooting went to the next level. You can plop this on the barricades and you can see you can put it on like that, or you can use it like a rear bag if you're shooting off the bipod. And because of the heavy sand fill in here, it really accepts your gun and gives you a stable shooting platform, especially if you have an Arca rail on your gun, which is a flat type of rail mount. It gives you a nice flat surface to push into that bag, and you can clamp your gun down on that bag while you're shooting from different positions and get a really stable position. So a bag is absolutely essential. Don't stress about other things like tripods and things like that. If all you have is a bag and you're effective with it, you can do really great in the PRS. Most people were shooting this exact bag or very similar variants for the entire match. So the next thing you'll need is some type of ballistic calculator. I'm using a Kestrel, and this is quite a luxury item. I can't remember how much I spent, but it's $600-700, somewhere around that price range. This is the one that gets the weather data, has the applied ballistics calculator, and connects to your phone via Bluetooth, where there's a Bluetooth app. Most serious shooters out there will be using the same exact Kestrel, but you can also get by with an app-based ballistic calculator on your phone. The only downside to that is you're not going to be getting the updated environmentals automatically. You're going to have to manually put that in your phone, and sometimes it's a little tricky to know the exact temperature or density in your exact location. But it can be done, and there are a lot of effective shooters out there using a ballistic calculator app in your phone. There are some really great ones. Actually, there was a really great one called Strelok Pro, but it was made by some Russian guy, and somehow it got banned in some government thing and ripped to Strelok Pro. There are some other ones. You can still figure out a way to get that one. Whatever you use, just make sure that you understand how to load your gun profile, your load, your muzzle velocity, and things like that, so that you can accurately get your dope on the range that day. You've heard me mention dope a lot in my videos, data on previous engagement. Simply showing up and with a historical record of where your bullet hits at certain ranges is not going to be good enough. These targets are small and the conditions change so much from the morning to the afternoon I think we started shooting and it was 40 degrees and we finished and it was 75. And that made a noticeable difference in how much I had to dial for different distances. So I really think you'd struggle all day if you showed up with just a dope card and a record of where you think your bullet is going to hit at certain ranges. So get a ballistic calculator app at a minimum. If you can get your hands on a Kestrel, borrow from a friend or afford one, that's better. Okay, now that you have a ballistic calculator, you're going to need a way to record and reference your data during the stage. I personally like using this wrist coach. I can slip these little stretchy shock cord bands over my arm and wear it on my wrist here. When I'm in my gun, all I have to do is look back here at my wrist. I don't even have to come off the gun, and I can see what my dope is for the next target. This is a white, shiny type surface, and I use a Sharpie permanent marker, and then I put some hand sanitizer on there in between each stage and wipe it off so I can start fresh. And I really like that. There's also this M-Lock data card from MDT that I have here that can attach to your stock or chassis. A lot of people use that. Personally, I don't like hanging too much stuff. I already got enough stuff on this rifle that I'm worried about. So I don't want to hang anything else off there. It's, whichever method you go with, you got to have something. So when you're planning your stage and you're planning your, how much you need to dial or hold for each distance, you need somewhere to write that down and reference it. Realistically, you're not going to remember on the clock each of your holds for each of the different targets. Last but not least, you need some type of glass so that you can spot wind, you can spot hits and misses for other shooters if you're helping out. And more importantly, you want to see what they're doing and how they're engaging the targets or missing them to kind of help you build your wind hold when you go up to shoot. I'm using a pair of 10x42 Leupold range finding binos. I really like these because I can verify all the different ranges of all the targets and, look at the wind, judge wind. I can see what the other shooters are doing, find all the targets all in one. I don't have to have a separate rangefinder. But I do give up a little bit by not having as much power as if I was using a spotting scope. You'll see kind of 50-50. A lot of people have binos, a lot of people have spotting scopes. You just have to find out, what the best is for you. But I think it's essential that you are watching the people shoot before you go, so you can see where they're missing. A lot of people are talking about wind holds and wind calls, and you can see if they're missing, on the downward side of the wind or upwind. You can kind of see and help build a wind hold for yourself. You can also look at grasses, mirage, other indicators downrange to help you build your wind call. And it really helps if you have some type of tripod that you can put your glass on. I have a really nice Athlon tripod that I use, and I don't even lock my binos in. What I do is I actually set the bag on top of the tripod head, set the binos on there, and that provides a really stable platform. And then it helps me to move quicker if I wanted to use the tripod to shoot. I don't have to take anything off of it. That's just what I use, so you can use any configuration that you like. Just have some type of glass out there and use a tripod if you have one or if you can borrow one. That will help you spot, call wind, things like that. Oh, and one more gear tip, you're gonna need something to carry all of this gear from stage to stage. I have an Eberly stock Bang Bang Rage bag, which is really awesome, but it's still hard. Like I sling that bag over my shoulder, I'm carrying my tripod, my 20-pound gun. Sometimes I had to make 2 trips. A lot of people out there have like those off-road style baby strollers with the big tires, and they load all their stuff in there, and that's the way to go. I think I'm gonna do that for the next match. Okay, so now that we talked about all the gear that you need, if you're still with me and you haven't quit because you can't afford it, that's awesome. Let's go to the fundamentals that you need to be successful. One of the main fundamentals that I think you need is, we already talked about the ballistic calculator, but now you need to be able to actually use it to plan out a stage. So you're gonna wanna practice putting different ranges in your ballistic calculator, and understanding how to dial those on your scope. That's kind of the biggest exercise that you'll be running over and over all day. And I saw a lot of people making silly mistakes with dialing, and they're just missing targets that they don't need to miss. So put some effort into practicing your system and thinking through how you're going to plan out a stage. Being able to dial and hold over are essential. There are some stages that are crafted in such a way that force you to hold over, because if you dialed for each and every target, you would never be able to finish in time. But there are some stages that you really had to dial because they were so challenging, the targets were so small and far away, that it was really going to be hard to get with a holdover, especially if you're holding elevation and wind at the same time, which is very challenging to do. So make sure you build the fundamental skills to be able to shoot with both, either dialing so that it's in your main crosshairs, or holding over and holding under so that if you have to plan a stage where you run holdovers, you don't feel out of your element. The next fundamental is going to be positional shooting. So all of the shooting that you're going to do, basically none of it is going to be in the prone. If you do any prone shooting, you can expect that those will probably be very challenging targets really far away. We did some modified prone shooting where we were kind of leaning over on the table with the bipod and the rear bag. Those were our furthest engagements. Most of your shooting for the whole entire day is going to be positional shooting off of barricades and props. There were rocks, tires, wooden built barricades. We shot out of a stinking bus window, and that stage ate my lunch. So you really got to get used to positional shooting. Putting that bag down on the barricade or the prop, putting your gun on top of it and getting steady from the standing, bent over standing, high kneeling, low kneeling, and full kind of froggy double kneeled squat position. Those are the main positions that you're going to need to use for these types of matches, and you got to practice those. Now, if you don't have a range where you can shoot 1,000 yards that has cool barricades and props, I'm very fortunate. My home range goes out to 700 yards. They have a bunch of cool barricades there. That's where I do a lot of my practice. Just even at your house, dry firing off of fence posts or the back of your truck or whatever, just get used to whatever prop that you can go up to, put your bag, build that position, and try different heights and different things so until you get a stable position, and then work your trigger squeeze. That positional shooting drill and skill is probably the most important thing to this sport. Okay, so actually I got a little ahead of myself. Practice, you're gonna wanna run your stage planning, your ballistic calculator prep, and you're gonna wanna run those positional shooting drills. What I really recommend you do is if you can get to a range that has any type of barricade or any different things that you can shoot off of, plan a stage for yourself, 10 shots, 3 or 4 different distances, write down your dope, do it as a full dial stage and as a full hold over and hold under stage so that you can get used to both. And I think even just running that a few times and setting yourself, 2 minutes or 105 seconds was a very common par time for this match. Setting yourself a time limit, putting yourself on the clock, you're going to learn that you have to move position to position very fast, and you don't have a lot of time to acquire that target, put the round in, and make your shot. So doing that practice, even if you can just squeeze out one day of doing that, you're going to be in a lot better position for your first match than if you didn't do that. You'll really struggle. My next point is, it's not really a practice thing, but show up early and confirm zero. I was an absolute idiot on this last match, and I didn't show up early enough, and I was kind of rushing to get to my squad and to get to the shooter's brief on time, so I didn't confirm zero. I had confirmed it the night before at my own range, and I thought everything was fine, but for some reason I was like 3/10 high, and I got 0 out of 10 on my first stage. I went, confirmed zero, got it back, reset my turrets, and after that I was doing a lot better. But that stage kind of took me out of the match, to be honest. So that was a stupid mistake. They had the lane set up there to confirm zero, and I could have just gone and squeezed off 1 or 2 rounds, and I would have saved myself a lot of trouble. So get there early enough, confirm zero. I don't think they're always going to let you do that. It depends on the match director. in the range you're at. But if there is the opportunity, go ahead and get that done so you know that your system on that range for those conditions is zeroed and you have a good starting point. So I hope there were some helpful tips in this video to help you get out there and shoot your first PRS match and shorten the learning curve so that you're not, complete garbage when you show up to the first one. There's still going to be a lot to learn. Get out there and talk to all the different people. Look at those good shooters, see what they do, notice different things about their system, and ask them lots of questions. Don't ask them a question right before they go up to shoot. Be respectful of that. But when they're at a comfortable time, once they're reset, ready for the next stage, go ahead and ask them different tips and techniques that they use to be a good shooter. And I think you'll learn a ton and have a really good time doing it. That's it for now. I'll be publishing a few more videos going deeper into some of these topics, and I'll be going deeper into this gun in the next couple of months as I shoot more long-range bolt action rifle matches. I really love this gun, and I really love how accurate it is without even doing tons of load development. So I'm excited to tell you about it and lots of other things about this wonderful sport. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time on The Quality Sportsman.